Hey, this is Brian Seltzer from Cohesity, and I'm going to show you how to automate checking that you've got good SQL backups. So here I'm logged into Cohesity, and I've got a protection job protecting some SQL databases. Let's find it. Here it is. And you can see that I'm periodically backing up the database and then backing up logs. And if you look in here, you'll see them. I'm protecting 3 databases on this server, SQL 2012. And let's focus on this Cohesity DB database. I can go and do a restore or a clone of that database. Search for it. There it is. And I can restore it to a different server. I'll restore it to this this development server I've got called W2012A. Tell it where to stick the files. I can give it an alternate name like validate DB and just click recover. I'm not actually going to do that right now because it'll take us a little bit of time. Another operation I can do is to clone the database. The difference being that the database will still come online on the server that I point to, but we'll be using Cohesity storage as Cohesity as the storage. So it won't take. It'll take almost no time. It's almost instant. We don't have to copy the data back to the server. We can just simply present it from Cohesity almost instantly. So that looks like this. Clone SQL database. Again, search for it. Here it is. And again, I'm going to choose my server and instance, rename it, call it validate DB, and then I'll click clone. Before I do that, let me just show you that here's that target server that I'm going to clone to. There's no database currently there called validate DB. So let's go ahead and click clone. And this really takes seconds. So if I go back to the server and click refresh now, there it is. Okay. And it doesn't matter. This could be 10 gigabytes or 10 terabytes, because we're not moving any data. We're simply presenting it from a pointer-based clone of the latest backup. It's really instant. So now we can automate this process and then run a database consistency check against that database. And Cohesity is 100% REST API driven. So everything we could do in the UI, we could do with REST API. So we could do that with PowerShell or really any other language that supports REST API. And by the way, when we're done testing the clone, we can simply tear it down. And you'll see that it gets detached and thrown away here. So let's refresh, and now that database is gone. Okay, so now let's talk about automating this. If you go to Google and search for GitHub Cohesity, there's our GitHub page, and this is my GitHub page here, bseltz Cohesity. That's me. I have a scripts repository, and in there you'll find lots of examples of PowerShell automation workflows for Cohesity, lots and lots of them. If you are more of a Linux shop, we've got examples in Python, and I've got a folder just for SQL scripts. And so here's a clone SQL script, a restore SQL script, and also a destroy clone script, which is what we'll use to do that tear down of the clone. So let's start with clone SQL. I give you download commands right here. So you can just copy these and open up PowerShell. And before we go on any further, let me just talk about PowerShell versions. If you type $host, it'll tell you what version of PowerShell you're running. And you know, this happens to be Windows 2012 R2, which comes with PowerShell 4.0. That's not new enough to support the version of SSL that's required by Cohesity, TLS 1.2. So you need, if you have an old version of PowerShell, you're going to need to upgrade to 5.1 or later, or PowerShell Core, you know, which is current version is like 7. In any case, if you see that you're running 4.0 or something old like that, you're gonna have to go and find you know, an upgrade package from Microsoft to get yourself up to date there. In any case, once you have a new enough version, you can go in. Let's make ourselves a scripts folder. Okay, and then I'll just paste those commands that I got from the website, and that'll download 2 files: the clone SQL script itself and a supporting library called Cohesity-API.ps1. And it, you know, when you run these commands, you may get some errors. There's 2 reasons for that. One, you've never launched Internet Explorer before. PowerShell uses Internet Explorer to make these web requests. So, you know, if you have to launch Internet Explorer, and if you remember, you know, the first time you launch it, you get prompted to use the default settings, etc. Just click through that and then try running the commands again. A second reason why you might get errors for this is if, you know, there's some funky SSL problems with PowerShell, and I have a fix for that actually on my GitHub site. If you go back to the scripts folder under PowerShell, you'll find this this folder called SSL fix, and you just click on this here and click on the raw button and just copy and paste these commands right into PowerShell, and that will sort of alleviate the SSL problem temporarily so you can get these files downloaded. Okay, so now we have our script. While we're at it, let's go and get the teardown script too. So we'll go back to scripts, SQL scripts, destroy clone, and again, here's our commands. Now we have clone SQL and destroy clone. And you know what? We can also get the restore SQL script. Okay. So clone SQL, destroy clone, and restore SQL. Now, what happens is when you run one of these scripts, you know, we provide a Cohesity username to connect to Cohesity to execute the restore operation or the clone operation, and it'll prompt you for your password the first time you run the script. Now, by default, the password is stored encrypted for the currently logged on user in the user's registry. And in this case, you know, we can run scripts interactively, no problem. I'm logged in as myself on this Windows host. But if you think about running this, what we're going to do is run scripts under the SQL Server agent. And that runs under a service account. And in fact, on my server here, let's take a look. It runs under the context of the local system account. So we need to get to store the password for it to use when it runs scripts. So what you do is, let's dot source the Cohesity API.ps1 file, which has a function for storing passwords. So I'll say dot space dot slash Cohesity API. That brings the functions in that library into my current session. And then I can say store password in file VIP. This is my Cohesity cluster, results for EO1. If we take a look over here, that's my cluster. And username is admin. And the domain is local. And it'll just prompt me for my password. And that stores that password in a file that will be available for all users on this system to reference. So now I can run a clone SQL command. Clone SQL. VIP is bcells for EO1. Username is admin. And let's go back and so the source server is SQL2012.seltzer.net. The source database is Cohesity DB. The target server is w2012a.seltzer.net. Target DB is validate DB. And I can do I can do a wait. What that means is, without the wait, it'll just kick off the clone task and exit the script. With the wait, it'll monitor to completion and report the exit status. So let's do that. And if you look in Cohesity, everything we do via REST API shows up in the UI. So here we are. It's 5:59 a.m. You can see I just kicked off a clone task. It's done. It took 2 seconds. The script returned the exit status is successful. And if we go back and look, there, our database clone is back, right? And then if we do a destroy clone, and there goes our teardown. So again, if you take a look, you see it's now the status has been destroyed and the database is gone. Okay, so now we have PowerShell ability to clone and tear down the clone for a database. Now let's make use of that for automating the process of testing a backup. So let's create a SQL Server agent job. Let's call this validate DB. And then for the steps, let's first clone the database. And this is going to be an operating system command exec step. And what you do is here's how you do this. You run PowerShell.exe -command, fully qualified path to the script with the same parameters that I used at the command line just now. So here's our clone command. Copy that to my clipboard here, and then paste that in here. Okay, and then so that's step one. Step two is check the database. So we'll use transact SQL here, and we'll say use validate DB, DB consistency check DB. Okay, and then final step, we'll tear down the clone. So again, this is going to be command exec. Let's call this tear down clone. And then here's the destroy clone command I ran earlier with the fully qualified path and the PowerShell.exe in the front. So let's copy that, paste that in here. Okay, and what I want to do is let's set up notifications, right? So I've set up database mail on my SQL Server and added my email as a notification. So I'll just select myself. When the job fails, send myself an email, and that's it. So let's try testing this. Let me just real quick do a refresh, run it, and if we go real quick and hit refresh, we should see there's our new clone. And that's done, so this should be gone now. Yep. So that worked. Now let's make a change to it. So make it break, just to make sure we're getting alerts here. So I'm going to just edit this guy and mess up the database name, so this will fail. And now let's try running this again. Okay, so then now that failed, and hopefully I should get an alert email. There it is. So this is what you would expect to see, something like this, if the process failed. And let's put that back now. Fix this here. Okay. And then we can set this on a schedule. So if you want to do this every day at a certain time of day, whatever, maybe I'll run this at 6 a.m. And that's it. Now we can test that we have a valid database backup every day. If you have any trouble with, if you want to make use of any of my scripts, if you have any trouble, reach out to your account team, especially your account systems engineer, and he'll get in touch with me, and I'll jump on with you and help you out. All right. Thanks a lot.